you who are watching at home, we've sort of admired each other's work on TikTok for a little while, both being fellow royal fans. And I think you're more on the sort of the factual, sort of historic side of things, and I tend to be more about the fashion side of things. So we thought it was a good idea, didn't we, that perhaps we got together. Oh, hello, hi, Windsor Royals, and had a little bit of a coronation chat, as there's so much to talk about, and it's so exciting
Yeah,
to share our excitement and our knowledge, really, and answer a few questions.
definitely perfect fit because we've got both sides of everything that we can talk about. So we'll be able to cover lots of stuff and answer hopefully a lot of questions.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think you've had some questions in, haven't you? I've got some
Yeah.
questions for you. I know you've got some questions for me. And I guess we'll keep an eye on the little feed as well at the bottom. It's the ultimate in multitasking, this. So we can just see if they have any specific questions that we can help with too. But
Hello,
everything
everyone.
royal. Hello, hello, hello,
Hello,
hello.
Becky.
Yeah, hi. Oh, hello, Lily. Hello, Lily. Hello, Nadine. Okay, so can I ask you the first question?
Yes, of course, go for it.
'Cause it's kind of, I've got a few general ones to kind of set the tone, and I'm just looking to my left where I've written them all down. Which is the first one really is, what is the point of a coronation in this modern day and age? What is it all about?
$1 million question, isn't it? Um, I mean, why would you not want a coronation? I mean, it's a really great symbol and celebration that is so important because it represents the continuity of our monarchy and it's a celebration of that and it marks this new era. We've obviously had like the big time since Queen Elizabeth II has died where it's been a bit of a grey area, but then as soon as this coronation happens, it'll be like start of Carolean era, like we're done, let's go, and it'll be a huge moment, especially because we haven't had one in 70 years. It's so important and so great to actually see that even after all this time, our monarchy is still continuing and we've still got that sort of seamless transition. And this is going to be a celebration of that.
It really is, isn't it? And I think the British monarchy, they sort of set the standard internationally with our history, and they are the royal family that everyone looks to all over the globe, not just in terms of fashion, of course, which I have a great interest in, but also everything that happens. And I think that wonderful pomp and ceremony and circumstance that Britain does do very well with our rich history. And I know I'm just really, really hoping that we get all of that. I don't know how much we will, but I want all of it.
I'm hoping it's not scaled back too much in terms of that. And I'm sure you are as well about the fashion, that hopefully that isn't going to be too toned down.
Yeah, I know. I can't wait for the fashion, and we'll definitely dig into the fashion in a minute. I'm just going to keep a little bit of an eye on the comments as well. Hello, thank you for your badges and things, guys. I don't really understand it, but I know Charlie knows more about it than me, so thank you very much. And you mentioned that we had a gap between the Queen dying and then the coronation. Now, is that normal?
Yeah, it isn't very normal to sort of allow that appropriate time since the passing of one monarch to the crowning of the next. It'd be a bit inappropriate for Queen Elizabeth II to die and then pop a crown on the king's head the next week. So there's always a sort of significant gap in between that to sort of allow the new royals to settle into their new roles. Before marking the new era. Some of them are longer than others. I think the one between Queen Elizabeth II's death and this coronation is actually relatively short, especially with Queen Elizabeth's coronation. I mean, that was, what, 18 months? It was a massive gap. So this one, it's relatively short for a coronation gap, because even with Queen Elizabeth's father and grandfather, I think they were over a year each as well. So this one is relatively short, but there's always at least a few months to allow the sort of appropriate time to pass after the funeral and after the death and everything.
I wonder if it's shorter because everyone's a bit older. I'm being a bit pessimistic now, but I hope not, just to kind of push everything through. I know because Charles and Camilla are obviously having a reception. It's not quite a full state banquet on the Friday night, but they are having something that's a bit more similar to a diplomatic state reception on the Friday. And they have spoken quite openly about not staying up too late. because they're going to be tired for everything that's going on and they want to be fresh for their big day. So I mean, they are what Camilla's 76 and isn't Charles turning 75? So I mean, they're senior citizens, aren't they? And
Yeah.
they've got a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, just starting a job and they're past retirement age and they're only just getting into their their new promotions.
Exactly. There's a lot on, and talking about that kind of period of respect, sort of just showing the late monarch some respect, which is obviously why they're not rushing through or they didn't rush through the coronation, even though it is considerably faster than previous years. I think we've seen that. Just to bring the fashion in a little bit, in the fashion actually in terms of Kate Middleton, because she has kind of changed her wardrobe and her look and her aesthetics. My cat is joining our conversation. That's his tail. Freud, he likes to chat. She kind of smartened up her look when she became the Princess of Wales, and I really feel that she sort of stepped into a new pair of shoes and she was up leveling. Her role is now far more serious and heavyweight within the family, and her wardrobe needed to reflect that. So we've spoken and I've spoken about Kate sort of power dressing, and she's wearing the trousers more. There's a lot of quite smart, more business-like attire, which very much shows her as a working royal and very passionate and committed to her causes. But I do think some critics have called her outfits quite boring and a bit dull over the last few months. And I mean, Kate is beautiful. Her wardrobe is stunning. She always looks exquisite. But I do know why they've said that. And that's because it is just, in general, being that little bit more muted, which I think is also part of the respect. They are out of their mourning period, but they've just kept things a little bit toned down. And also because actually she doesn't want to detract from Charles, because it's kind of his moment, isn't it? Both at the coronation, and I'm sure we'll chat about what they might wear, but also just generally speaking, this has been his time to come and shine. She does do some beautiful, stunning evening wear still, and we've seen her at the BAFTAs and at various bits and pieces looking just fabulous and really having her moment. But I think generally on an everyday basis, she's played everything down a little bit, which does fit in with that sort of mourning period and where they're all at as a family at the moment.
Yeah. And do you think that might sort of change after the coronation? Do you think she might liven it up a bit, maybe go out of her comfort zone a bit more after all the coronation is done?
I think we've got to just see that through. I think we're going to need a few more months just to sort of see the coronation through and bed down. And then, yes, I think we will have a few more fashion moments. I mean, Kate can really bring it when she wants to, like the BAFTAs and the Earthshot are two that really spring to mind. If she wants to sort of knock it out of the park, do something a little bit out of the box, both of those were quite different. I mean, the rented gown for Earthshot was PR genius, I thought, because it was just, well, it was a royal first, wasn't it? And the colour was so unusual for Kate. So was the silhouette. So it just got everyone's attention. And I think this is on purpose. I think her evening outfits tend to be more dramatic in order to stir up that media attention and frenzy, which, let's face it, does surround her, because the whole world, which is a fashion icon, and we're all looking at what she wears. But then I think that contrasts with her day dress sort of work uniform, in which she just wants to focus on the charities that she supports rather than what she's wearing.
Yeah. And so do you think, obviously, because there's going to be a lot of media and a lot of attention on her at the coronation, do we have any predictions of what she might actually be wearing on the big day?
Oh, I'm so torn because, I think probably like most of my lovely followers, and we've had conversations on some of my past videos, I think they're with me, and I think with you as well, in that we want all of the glamour, don't we? We want the tiaras and the coronets and the robes and the ball gowns or court dresses and all of that, because I mean, I know there's a cost of living crisis, and there absolutely is. And I think it's very nice of King Charles to kind of scale things back out of respect for what everyone's going through and where we are in the world. However, if it's a question of not wearing the crown jewels, they're not going out and buying new ones, are they? They belong to them already. So just get them out, dust them off. It's almost criminal to have them gathering dust in the vault somewhere or in the Tower of London. Put them on and it'll cheer us up. We want to see all the glad rags.
We need something shiny to look at.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even if they went into the archives, like Princess Beatrice did for her wedding, who re-wore an old dress of the Queen's, designed by Sir Norman Hartnell. The Queen originally wore it to the premiere of the Lawrence of Arabia film, and then Princess Beatrice wore it for her wedding and looked incredible in vintage. Even if everyone did that, it would still be respectful of the time. They'd be re-wearing it, it would be vintage. They'd get so many brownie points. In fact, if I was in charge of the coronation fashion, that's what I would do. I would go into the the fashion archives and pull out some fantastic outfits and pop everyone in them. Because there's nothing, no problem with that, is there? Because it's all existing. There's no money spent, or not much.
It's not going to
Yeah.
cost that much more for them to wear stuff that already exists.
Well, exactly. So I'm really hoping they get out the big guns. However, we do know, it has been sort of leaked, if you like, and messaged out that it's going to be scaled back. How much that affects the clothing, we don't fully know. Charles, I'd be surprised if he was in the very usual, what do they call it, a surcoat with the sort of the lace-up blouse underneath and the stockings and the garters and all that garb. I would be surprised. I do think it's more likely that he will be in military uniform, his navy, full-on, literally navy uniform with all of his medals and decorations and things. Although I have questioned how they're going to manage the anointing, because normally they have the colubium cindonis, terrible Latin, I probably pronounced that wrong, but I think, that white garment, it's like a shroud almost, that's on over the top of the outfit, and then it will allow easy access to the shoulders and chest for the anointing, which is the holiest part of the ceremony. But I think there's going to be a bit of a kerfuffle to get the navy uniform, the military uniform off for that part. So I do have a question mark there as to what they're going to do. Maybe they'll adapt it, or he'll just shoulder robe it and look quite fashionista for a moment. I'm not quite sure. And then in terms of the ladies, well, yeah, we've got two events really, haven't we? We've got the diplomatic reception and we've got the actual coronation. So I think I am praying and I'm gonna lay money on the fact that I think we're gonna get tiaras at the reception.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I hope we do. I really hope we do, especially because that's where a lot of the foreign royals are going to be going as well, for their sort of big. That's going to be their sort of centre of attention, because in the actual coronation service, obviously the foreign royals aren't going to be that front and centre. So I think at the reception, that's when more eyes are going to be on them. So hopefully they bring out something nice for us to look at.
Yes, and of course they've got all of their fabulous outfits and crown jewels and everything as well. So it's really going to be, for example, what are the Japan contingent going to wear? Because that would be, I'm not overly well versed on their national dress and their crown jewels and things, but it's going to be so exotic and exciting, and I can't wait to see, what they turn up in. So it will be fantastic, but I think we'll see Kate in a gown for that. I'm sure we will, and Camilla. So we'll have tiaras, I predict, at that moment. And for the reception, I think we'll get only wear in terms of the tiaras. I know that we were going to chat about that. And Camilla always tends to wear the larger headgear because she can take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really can. She's 5'7", which is fairly tall for a lady, and she's always got this big hair anyway. And if she can, she wears a big hat, and that looks amazing as well. It just adds to her stature. So she does wear these massive, like the Greville tiara or the Boucheron tiara, and it looks just amazing. The Delhi Durbar. So I'm hoping that we might get one of those for that. I don't think it's going to be new. Kate obviously loves the Lovers Knot tiara. That's the one that she wears the most. Although I prefer the lotus flower actually on her. Those are the two that she wears most frequently. And then in terms of the tiaras in the actual ceremony, I think we might get something new for Camilla, because I think she might want to perhaps remember the Queen, and make, we know that all of their jewellery is really symbolic, and they usually wear something to perhaps commemorate another member of the family that might have passed away, or some significance like that. So is it the Girls of Britain and Ireland tiara? I've forgotten
Yeah,
exactly what it's called,
yeah.
something like that, or one of the ones that we haven't seen really for a little while, and there are quite a few. If you look up the tiaras of the royal family, I mean, there's over 40 of them. There's an awful lot of them. So maybe they'll bring one out with a bit of blue, because Kate Middleton has hinted there's a bit of blue in their outfits, and I know Camilla loves blue in particular. So maybe they'll do some sapphires, yeah, or something like that. I know that she obviously will be wearing her crown when she's crowned, but the Queen wore the diadem, King George IV's diadem, to the ceremony when she was travelling there. So maybe we'll see something like that on Camilla, or Camilla will wear that one and then sort of basically make like the Queen, and remember her mother-in-law.
Yeah, so you're thinking that it's going to be more rewears, tiaras that we've seen before, maybe in that department, nothing brand new or shocking.
No, not brand new. Definitely not brand new, because they've got enough. Let's face it. They didn't need a new crown for the Queen
No.
Consort. They're using Queen Mary's crown, which is being amended, isn't it? They've taken out the very controversial Kohinoor diamond. That's gone. They've put in the Cullinan 3, 4, and 5,
Yeah.
which are in the Queen's collection. And then apparently they also sort of alter the crown and add in special jewels that reflect the wearer's personality. So that will be interesting. I wonder, again, I'm sort of thinking sapphire, aquamarine, that sort of thing, because I know that Camilla loves those colours.
Yeah, definitely. So, do we think that it's only going to be the Queen and Princess of Wales wearing tiaras, or do we think maybe Princess Anne, Duchess Sophie, maybe?
Well,
I
not
don't
Anne,
think
because Anne
Princess
we
Anne
know.
anymore, because she's going to be on a
No,
horse.
as you told us
Yeah,
today or yesterday, one of your excellent videos. Yes, she is it Gold Stick? What's her title?
gold
It's a
stick
funny
in
one.
waiting.
Gold Stick in Waiting. I mean, where on earth does that come from? We must look into the history of it, because it's just crazy. It's obviously got military connections, but essentially a bodyguard, as you say,
Yeah.
to the king. And of course, Princess Anne wore the military uniform, her navy, full formal navy uniform, to the Queen's funeral. So we're used to seeing her like that. So I think also she feels quite comfortable like that. I mean, she is a real horsewoman for a start. Um, she used to be quite the fashion icon at times, but we also know she's probably the lady that most rewears her clothes, actually, and is often seen wearing something that she's dug out that is sort of 30, 40, 50 years old, which is quite fabulous in its own right. But I think she'd be quite comfortable in her military uniform and happy to have that role. But I hope that we'll also see Sophie wearing a tiara as well. Is that going to be it for I think it's going to be the immediate royal
I
family if we're
think
going to have a twinkle.
immediate working members. I don't think anybody else would be wearing any.
No. And of course, again, at the Queen's coronation, sorry, excuse my computer, the Queen's coronation, they wore the tiaras. This is all of the noblemen and the peers and the royal family. They had their court dresses on, which was basically a white ball gown with sort of silver and gold thread, and all very, very formal. So it was sort of ball gowns. And they also had their robes, of course. Everyone wore robes that was either a royal or a peer. And the robes would vary depending on their seniority in terms of how many rows of ermine fur it would be trimmed in, and how grand their coronets were. And then what I found out recently, which I thought was quite interesting, was that everyone carries the coronet, and then they put it on their heads when the king is crowned, which I think is so cool.
Yeah.
But the ladies have already got tiaras on, so that's actually quite a logistical issue. You've got to make sure the tiara is wide enough to pop the coronet on the head behind.
Yeah, so a lot going on. Tiaras, coronets. Imagine all of that
I
going on
know.
your head.
Yeah, and we want to see it. Bring out the
Yeah.
crown jewels.
Crack open
So
the
I've got
vault.
more Yeah, exactly. I've got some more questions for you here. Oh, yeah. So you're very up on this. What the difference is between this coronation that we know about and then the Queen's coronation? What are the key factors?
Oh. Where to start? There's so much. I mean, because it was 70 years ago. There's going to be so much different just in that nature, just because of how different everything is. Obviously, the actual ceremony is going to be shorter. It's only going to be like 90 minutes instead of 3 or 4 hours. There are only going to be 2,000 guests instead of, what was it, 4,000, 5,000, more than that. And then obviously now we've got social media. This is the first coronation with social media. So there are going to be so many people seeing it. It's going to be so much more accessible and it's going to be shared that much more that it'll be interesting to see if they do anything to sort of accommodate that. Maybe just how the image is, how it looks. Because obviously, when it was broadcast on TV the first time, they changed things for that. So it will definitely be interesting. But obviously, the main thing is it being scaled back. Obviously, the rumours of the dress code being scaled back, guests, coronation time, the gold state carriage coach, which I think you've talked about as well,
Yeah.
that not being used for as much.
Well, it's really uncomfortable, isn't it? Apparently, it makes everyone feel a bit sick and
Yeah.
very, very bumpy. No suspension or aircon.
No, awful. And apparently not nice for the horses either because of how heavy it is, which you can
Oh, I
imagine.
didn't know that. Right, that's interesting. But the new
Yeah.
one they're using, so it's actually, I made a mistake in my video. It's not brand new. They're using an old one, aren't they? They've sort of revamped one, but it's got air conditioning and electric windows and all
Yeah.
sorts of things,
It's a
apparently.
lot nicer.
Yeah. Oh, are you going to get up to London to have a look? Are you going to
I'm
be able to
not,
go there?
no. I'm staying at
Because where are
home.
you going? Where are you?
At the moment, I'm in York because that's where
Okay.
I am at university. But when I go home for the coronation next week, I'll be there with my friends and family and neighbours, and we're all having a big garden party.
Lovely. Well, it's got to be done, hasn't it? Yes,
Yeah,
I'm going to be in London next week and having a look around. I know it's going to be busy, but
yeah.
yes, for the actual coronation, I'll be here when I at home where I can watch it on the telly, do a bit of writing for the press. I've got to have a few articles to write on it, and then hopefully have a big party as well, as long as I don't have too much work to do. We'll see.
So, another fashion question. See if we've
Yeah.
talked a lot about tiaras, but
We have.
that's the main thing we all want. That's like what we want, fancy stuff. Will do you think we're going to be seeing custom gowns like 1953? Because obviously we know the dress code wasn't even told to royals until fairly recently. So would there even have been time for a lot of adjustments or customizations to be made, or things made completely from scratch custom, or will we just be seeing regular old gowns?
For the royal family, definitely, because they will have obviously they've known about the up and coming coronation for quite a while. There will have been plans for them anyway, probably even before the Queen died. Some various sort of loose plans and ideas of what might happen will have been discussed in the palace because all of the wardrobes, everyone's, the Queen. I mean, the Queen literally had a spreadsheet. It was called the Wardrobe Diaries, led by Angela Kelly, and every single outfit was documented, named, logged. So there was a really accurate record of exactly what was worn when. And I'm sure that with Kate, who is the second most senior woman in the royal family, following Camilla, it's exactly the same because her fashion is just so scrutinized. So we know that Camilla is having, well, I'm taking it that we know that Camilla, it hasn't actually been officially said that Bruce Oldfield, who's the designer, we haven't heard that it's brand new, but I'm sure it will be. And I think I think they can stretch to that. I think the occasion warrants. I mean, I suppose he could take an old one and rework it, but I'd be so surprised. It would be quite a clever move in some ways, actually, if he took sort of the old pale blue one he did for her last year, which was stunning, and then just made some tweaks. But I just don't think it would be right. We're already re-wearing an old crown. Let's have a new frock.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we should. And Bruce is known for his workmanship. He's got a great relationship with Queen Camilla. They're very good friends. He's helped her become more confident in her role, and I think he's helped her to feel more glamorous as well because Camilla likes her country life, her horse riding, her shooting, her walking the dogs, and she's really had to pull it out of the bag, sartorially speaking, and up her game. And I think she's done so very well, and he's been instrumental in that. Um, Also, of course, he did do a lot for the late Princess Diana, which so it's been quite controversial that she chose Bruce Oldfield to make this dress for her. I personally like to think of it as a nod to the late Princess Diana and a nice thing to do rather than any controversy or competition between the two ladies. I think it's a way of acknowledging her and sort of bringing her into the picture a little bit. So that's really exciting, what Camilla will wear. So new frock, she's going to have the coronation necklace on because everyone else has, every other queen has, and the crown, following her crowning. And then Kate is probably the next exciting one for most people. Um, I'm, I'm sort of 99% sure it's going to be new. I think it will be, well, she's got her stable of her favourite designers, hasn't she? I know that Alexander McQueen is a popular one. Amelia Wickstead is another popular one. It's going to be one of her real regulars. If she goes for a full gown, if they're doing full gowns the night before at the diplomatic reception, then it is likely that they might do day dress during the ceremony. But again, I'm still praying that they're not. I just hope that that's just for the visiting royals and the immediate royal family get to do a beautiful evening gown. Maybe not super ostentatious, but still, it could be a simple, but just a gown with a little bit of a tiara because we all want it, don't we? Basically.
And we know she's going to have a hint of blue as well.
Yeah, well, exactly. So she said that. So,
Giving
and
hints.
that could mean, yeah, that could mean anything from a pair of Diana's sapphire earrings to she was made Dame of the Royal Victorian Order, wasn't she? So she could be wearing her sash, which I think she probably will be at the diplomatic reception, because I think that's normally the order of the day. So maybe she was referring to that. But again, the typical sort of dress for these things historically, certainly the ceremony, would be a white court dress, they're called, or ball gown with silver and gold embroidery, sometimes a little bit of colour, because the Queen, famously for her coronation gown, Sir Norman Hartnell, who designed it for her, and he presented her with 8 different beautiful paintings, all of them very, very different. And I think it was the 6th, the 5th or the 6th, he was really nervous about because it was full of colour. And he thought that he was really breaking with protocol. He was breaking with protocol here and taking a little bit of a risk. But he was known for his love of embellishment and drama. And actually, he developed his love for fashion by going and watching all these West End musicals and then rushing home to paint the costumes. So he just loved being extra, more is more. And he thought he was going to get a bit of a telling off from the Queen at presenting her with this very colourful painting. But actually, she turned around to him and said it was a possibility. And even though the gowns up to that point, the Queen Victoria's gown, for example, was pure white with silver thread, it was a very different situation because Queen Victoria, when she was coronated in 1838, is that right? 18 or 19, oh my goodness, I'm terrible with numbers. That's why I do fashion. Anyway, something 38. It's probably 1938. Oh my goodness, I stopped digging myself out this hole now. When she was crowned, she was 18 years old, I know that. And she was very young, and not married, so she had to sort of appear more virginal and innocent and all of that sort of thing, which is why she was in pure white. But the Queen was a little bit older, she was married, she'd lived a little, as it were. So she was definitely fine to have colour and show a little bit more personality. So they compromised for the Queen's coronation dress on the 8th design he showed her, which had the emblems of the UK, the United Kingdom, so England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales, embroidered around the skirt, although he did make a mistake, which I might come back to later. But they were just in gold and silver thread. And she said, no, you can do that, but I would like some colour. And then later on, she said, I would also like all of the emblems of the Commonwealth, because she was, as we all know, so committed to her duty as a queen. She's much loved and much missed for a reason. And this was just very typical of her. So I've forgotten your original question and just waffled on about the Queen's coronation gown, but I just love the
No,
history. It's all so
brilliant.
fascinating.
No,
Thank
brilliant.
you.
We were going to talk about that anyway, so why not?
Good,
Um,
good,
yeah,
good.
coronation gown was definitely great. Do you think that we won't see Queen Camilla in anything quite as extravagant because she's not a queen regnant, but will we see something slightly similar to that in terms of colour and maybe something that isn't as normal or as toned down as her everyday sort of wear, or something that we normally see her wearing in the evening?
I think it will be more eveningy, yes. Probably slightly less embellished than. So if you think of her, oh, can't stay, love your channel. Thank you so much. Thank you. Lots of lovely comments coming in. So she wore this beautiful black Bruce Oldfield ensemble for the German visit, state visit, which was quite recent, wasn't it? And that was actually a two-piece, and it was heavily beaded and embroidered, and it was full of glittering diamonds or diamantes, and it was just stunning. But I think that was very, very heavily embellished. I think she'll probably be more simple because, as you said, she's not the Queen Revenant, and she has got to play second fiddle to Charles, really, which she's very, very happy to do, and does very well. I think actually, I think that's why one of the reasons that they work so well. Actually, unlike the history with Diana, who we all adored, but there's evidence that Charles was slightly discomforted by the fact that she really became far more famous and popular than he did, and that contributed to the breakdown of things. Whereas Camilla is far more of a stabilizing influence on Charles and allows him to do what he does best. And he's not the most popular monarch, is he? I think many people miss the Queen, and every time I do a video about Charles, I get 50-50 positive and negative comments about him, which I think is really sad, actually. Because I think personally, I think he does a lot of good. But a lot of people just haven't moved on from the Diana and Camilla debacle, which is a great shame. I'm digressing again entirely. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Charlie. What were we talking
No,
about?
we'll talk about anything. Yeah, it's definitely upsetting. I think it's nice to see people warming up to Camilla a lot more now, which
I
is great.
hope
I like to
so.
see that.
Yeah, she seems like a lovely lady, and there's obviously a lot of history there, and I know a lot of people still feel very strongly, as I said, about Diana. But I mean, I'm no expert, and I wasn't there, and I don't think anyone else was there that's going to be watching this. So no one really knows what goes on behind closed doors, and we have no idea. I think. From what I gather, Diana had an affair as well. Who knows about the timing of that? But for me, the bottom line is that everyone deserves to be happy. And if they made a mistake, they were Charles and Diana were sort of pushed into that marriage for many reasons. I think Diana fell for the fairy tale, but maybe Charles's heart wasn't in it, and he tried to make the most of it in a very difficult situation. But I think everyone deserves a second chance, and everyone deserves to be happy. And I think Camilla's very down to earth, and everyone I know that has met her says she has an amazing ability to make everyone feel really comfortable. She has everyone in fits of hysterics, like the whole time, especially Charles. And I think it's so lovely to see those photographs of them literally like their sides are splitting with laughter, which is so nice. And I think they deserve that after all that heartache and hardship. They're in a really hard position. I wouldn't want that job. I mean, what a hard job they've got. Goodness me. And she also apparently is very caring. So, if there's lots of media around and they're in somewhere hot, she'll fuss around the photographers and check they've all got sun cream on and things like that. So I think really lovely. And yes, I do hope more and more people warm to Camilla because I think she deserves it.
Definitely, me too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
more
I've
fashion
got other
stuff.
questions. I know I've got more questions for you in a minute. Right. So the actual ceremony,
Yeah.
apart from we know that Princess Anne or the Princess Royal is going to be the bodyguard, what other special roles do other members of the immediate royal family have?
Well, this is the thing. One of the other things that are different to 1953, we're going to see the Prince of Wales sort of paying his respects to the King, as they sort of do, like swearing allegiance type of thing. Whether it's going to be the full situation where he gets down on one knee and kisses his hand, as is tradition, that's unclear. That might be one of the little details that is taken out and changed to make it more modern. But who knows? He might get down on one knee. And it's tradition that other royal dukes would do that as well. But people are obviously thinking and saying, the Duke of Gloucester, the Duke of Kent, are they really going to be getting down on one knee and kissing the king's hand? Probably not. So that is really one of the main roles that male members of the royal family would play. So that's just something that we're going to have to see on the day as to whether that changes, because we haven't really heard much about it. But if it does happen, then most likely it will be Prince William sort of paying that respect to his father. And in terms of female members, there might not really be anything. Usually we would see duchesses, Duchess of Edinburgh, Gloucester, Kent, holding the canopy over the Queen when she would be anointed. But we now know that Queen Camilla has said she doesn't want royal duchesses doing that. She wants her grandchildren doing it. So it might not be any other sort of royals having any big role other than Princess Anne being the bodyguard, which who wouldn't want Princess Anne as their bodyguard? So really, it's going to
And
be
what
very.
about, sorry, what about Prince? So I'm just closing my computer down because it's making noise. What about Prince George?
Prince George, yes, he's going to be the page boy. When I always forget about the younger the younger
Yeah.
members, because you just don't think that they're going to really be, doing that much. But he's going to be carrying King Charles's train behind him, which is going to be a big thing for him. He's going to be centre stage carrying the king's robe would you call it? I suppose the train of his robe down the aisle like a wedding. Um, but yeah, Prince George is going to be doing that, and then again, Queen Camilla has asked her grandchildren and her great nephew to do that for her as well. And this is actually a job that King George will also do at state openings of Parliament. So this isn't just a one-off coronation thing. This is something that we're going to see Prince George doing in the future as well. So that's going to be great to see that really it makes the most sense that the next two people in the line of succession are going to have the most prominent roles sort of centre stage at the coronation. So Prince William and Prince George, I think, will be the main ones to watch out for.
Yes, yes. And okay, so what about, we have to ask, what about Harry and Andrew? What are your predictions in terms of their roles or even their seats in the ceremony?
Apparently, Harry's going to be 10 rows back. I mean, whether
Yeah,
that
well,
was
it could
just,
be.
yeah,
That could just be everyone just gossiping and
yeah,
stirring and all that, because they
whether that's
do.
just like a phrase or a saying that people are saying, oh, 10 rows back, as in he's just going to be out of the picture a bit, or whether he physically will be. I don't think he'll be quite 10 rows back. But
I
who
don't
knows?
think, well, I
No.
don't think, I think Andrew's a more difficult situation because,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get into everything there, but yeah, that one is hard. But I guess family, this is a family occasion. So, because at the Queen's funeral, they just wore suits, didn't they? They didn't wear the ceremonial uniform. So maybe they'll
Yeah,
just
I
be
think we'll
there, but
probably
just
see
feeling
something
more
similar
free.
to that. Yeah, non-uniform, just sort of there. You can sit and watch, but you're not going to be front and center. If it was up to me, I would not have Andrew there at all. But for PR's sake, but
Oh, hot potato, isn't it? A
yes,
massive hot potato. And again, I don't know enough. I genuinely don't know enough. I know what everyone's saying and what apparently happened, but but yes, not a nice situation for anyone. And then of course we've got Meghan's absence, so Harry's going to be on his own. What do you think about that? How do you think he's going to be received by everybody?
I mean, who knows? Maybe because he's on his own, it might be a bit easier for him to blend in and just nip in, nip out, not have that much attention on him, maybe, with him being on his own. Maybe he'll just be able to go, watch, and not cause that much of a fuss, and there won't be that many people sort of on him. With going on his own, it might be a bit easier for him. But I mean, I think it makes sense. I think from the start we were all thinking and knowing that he would be invited and he probably would come, and that it was Meghan, maybe she wouldn't, and that was the big question mark. So who knows? It's going to be
Yeah.
definitely awkward, I think, to say the least.
Yeah. I know. I feel, I think whatever you think of Harry and Meghan, and I know, some people are Team Sussex and some people are definitely not Team Sussex. Again, I just think the whole situation's really sad for the whole family, and we can all allocate blame if we want to, but again, we don't know the full circumstances, and it's just, I think it is going to be really hard for him. But I think he's quite close to Eugenie, isn't he? So maybe he'll stick with her a bit. Maybe he'll just sit with them actually.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll just hang out, kind of second tier royal family, so still at the front but not on the stage. It's not really the right description, but not right standing in front of everyone sort of thing, and not a balcony moment maybe for him. And of course, he's flying straight back,
Yeah.
as we know, which is not surprising because it's Archie's sixth birthday, so fair enough. And I am disappointed that Meghan's not coming. I know, again, there were so many people that were literally celebrating that she wasn't going, and I'm not going to get involved in that because I do. I like to be completely neutral in all my reporting because, again, I don't know the situation. But from a fashion point of view, I was disappointed because it's another dose of glamour. She does it a little bit differently to Kate. I don't compare the two ladies because they have very different styles. And I think it would have been wonderful to see what she would have brought to the occasion, because she often goes for her big super designers like Dior and things like that. And it could have been very glamorous, sort of Hollywood-esque moment for us all to look at, which would have been gorgeous.
One,
But
one less outfit, which is sad, but
yeah, it's sad, but it's just the way it is. I mean, we've got Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, who I know is one of your favourites, isn't she?
yes.
Oh, that's so lovely. Why do you love her so much or like her so much?
I just love the work that she does and how she's just drama free and she just gets on with it and she just seems so nice and just lovely and she's just drama free and the work that she does is incredible. And I think part of the reason why I'm gravitate towards her so much is because she gets so little attention for so much work that she does. And that's upsetting of the comments. Why wouldn't anyone love Sophie? All the love hearts are coming in for Sophie now.
Oh. Well, it's funny, isn't it, that you say she doesn't get that much attention, but actually it's almost ironic because, of course, her career was PR,
Yeah.
which is all about getting media attention. So she would know exactly how to get it if she wanted
Yeah.
it, but also with her background, she also knows exactly how to stay under the radar and avoid it, which she is doing. And I think you're right. I think she just feels really nice, really kind, really normal. But conducts herself beautifully, and as you say, does a lot of really great work, and tends to have a really fabulous flourish to every outfit. So I always think she just brings something a little bit different to each look. She can be quite, fairly not conservative, but quite classic in most of what she's wearing, and then she'll just have one little funky, flamboyant touch, which I think is great. So she's sort of almost saying, don't believe everything that meets the eye. She could probably knock a few tequilas back on a good night and drink me under the table or whatever. She's got a wicked fun side as well as this sort of exterior of doing good. So I love that about her.
Yeah.
Right, next question for
Thank
you.
you for
Oh,
the
hang
roses,
on.
everyone.
Oh, they're sending us roses.
Yes.
Oh, that's nice. I think you've invited me, so I can't really see that bit. Should we also check the questions that everyone's
Yes. Has
asking? So
anybody
just in
got any?
case,
We open it to the floor for a minute. If anybody has any questions.
on the spot now, aren't we? Will the Chattos brothers? Who's that? Who's the Chattos brothers?
I don't know.
Okay, sorry, we don't know that. We don't know who they are. It might have been a joke, to be honest. I never really know with these things. We've done what Camilla's gonna wear. We've talked
Duke and
about
Duchess of
Meghan. We've
Gloucester
talked
will be
about
there. Yes.
yeah.
Um.
Yeah, we're just checking. Warm reception. You're heading to the coronation for New York. Wow.
Wow.
So welcome to the UK. Pack an umbrella.
Yeah. It's actually brilliant. I've had like quite a few messages of people who are traveling from all around the world just to come to watch the coronation, which is brilliant to like hear.
Yeah, so lovely. Yeah, so I'm going into town next week. I've got a couple of TV interviews that I'm doing, which will be really fun. But I'm allowing a lot of extra time because I think the traffic is going to be crazy, and the security apparently is much heavier. Well, it would be compared to Queen Elizabeth's coronation because times have changed. But I think it's particularly heavy. Um, which might be why, hello, which might be why the route has been shortened, perhaps. Do you have any sort of thoughts on that? Would it be a security issue maybe for them, or simply age, bumpy carriage, logistics like
I think
that?
the main thing is age, bumpy carriage, and also maybe not parading around in the solid gold coach for as long for the optics. But also, one of the interesting things that I saw was maybe they're doing it and shortening the route because they're not expecting as many people to line the streets, which I wasn't fully convinced with. I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised at the amount of people who are actually going to be, wanting to be there in person to see. So I think that one might have been, I don't know, maybe. I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised and shocked at how many people actually turn up in person. So I'm not
No,
sure if
I
that
hope
will be the case.
No, I really hope so. Joseph just asked, Joseph, I'm assuming you're not from the UK. I might be wrong. But he said, can you both explain to me, other than it being historical, why you're celebrating? And if you're not from the UK, I think it's sometimes a bit hard to understand from, oh, you are from the UK? Okay, well, there you go. But, I've been absolutely brought up with the royal family, and uh, I've never, I would never until recently have called myself like a massive royal fan or anything like that. But I think when Charles and Diana got married, we had a big street party. Every other big sort of royal event that I've grown up with, we everyone celebrated. Always grown up in villages as well, which probably helps a small community. And whenever a big deal happened, good or bad, we'd all gather at our local pub, have the street flags out and everything else. And it was basically an excuse to have a party. But I think also that for me, even though I wouldn't call myself like, really, really, really royalist, which might come as a surprise because I love all of this and the fashion side, but I didn't grow up being a really strong royalist. It sort of happened through the fashion. Um, I just, I do have a respect for them. And I do think they do a great job for the country. I know that's again a very controversial statement. I'm probably opening up a can of worms here, but it's just a reason to celebrate, isn't it? It's an excuse to get together as a community,
Yeah, I
which
think
I
it's
think is really
great
important.
because, like, no matter what, no matter who you are, where you come from, it's the royals are one thing that everyone has in common. And so when there is a big event like this is like the king as like the symbolic head of state, which is why it's so important to have a symbolic head of state like a monarch instead of an elected one, is that no matter what, that is something that you have in common with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another example of that, I was surprised. I don't know about you, but I was really surprised at how upset I was when the Queen died. And actually, all of my friends were devastated as well. And even the ones that weren't overly royalist or even anti monarchy, actually, everyone was devastated because I think they're just such a part of our culture and sort of subconscious rhetoric, if you like, in this country. They're just there in the background, and it's just how the order of things in the UK, isn't it? They're just really part of the fabric and the tapestry of life here.
Yeah, you don't miss it until it's gone. And I think that's
Yeah.
what happened with the Queen. I mean, it's like my mum isn't that big of a royalist either. She's not that into it. And when the Queen died, she wasn't particularly upset. But what got her actually was Charles's first address to the nation, and that's what got her. So it's very interesting, and it's yeah. No matter what, I think it impacts you in some way, no matter what.
Yeah, and we still miss her. I know we all do. She was such a firm, steady figure, and getting back to fashion for a minute. that really played a part in that because she was always this lovely, jolly rainbow of colour. You always knew with the Queen, you were going to get a fabulous, bright colour, and she looked amazing. And she always went to the nth degree with her matching hat and her handbag and her brolly and her lovely little coat over her dress. And it was part of this sort of fashion uniform that became her signature style. She basically repeated the same look every day for years and years, but just in a different colour, which just, it helped to build her personal brand, but it also made her a comfortingly familiar figure, so that if we closed our eyes at any time, we would imagine the Queen basically looking the same as she always does look, which was just lovely. And I think, well, I think with Charles's fashion, it's sort of similar. He likes a double-breasted suit, although he's breaking out of those a little bit recently. But he loves his fashion. But I think the Queen did that very, very well, and it helped. It just helped us all grow so fond of her. It was just part of the whole package of the Queen, really.
Yeah, definitely. We've got some more questions about the actual day. Do we think Princess Charlotte will wear a tiara? No, definitely not. Princess Charlotte won't be in a tiara. Royal.
The little ones were at the Queen's coronation. I'm still holding out for tiaras for everyone, but no, I don't think she will. I think you're right. But maybe a symbolic brooch, because she wore the little horseshoe brooch that the Queen gave her at the Queen's funeral. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Which was a lovely little nod to not only the Queen's love of horses, but their sweet little relationship. So there'll probably be something, some sparkle somewhere, and she's getting a little bit older. But yeah, probably not a tiara. I'm just going to check my questions for you because I had a couple more. Oh yeah, foreign royals. Right, who's coming? Who's
Oh,
who do you know that's coming, and who are your favourites?
wow. This is interesting because usually at coronations we haven't seen like foreign heads of state coming before. Usually, other monarchies they'll send their heirs instead of their monarchs. But this time we actually have foreign monarchs coming, but not just like one or two. We have lots. It's going to be a security nightmare, I'm sure, but it's going to be brilliant. And sorry, there is somebody spamming.
Oh,
Somebody
lovely. I see that.
spamming abolish the monarchy over and over again.
Oh no, I can't see that. I think I've got
I
some
think,
like
yeah, I think
the
we must
rude
have
comments
separate
turned off.
comments. Like, I think
Oh,
we must have, I think, yeah, we must have like my comments from my followers and then yours from yours,
oh,
I think, maybe. I'm not 100% sure how it
okay.
works, but
Okay, no, me neither. We'll work it out later. That's
anyway.
fine.
So I mean, I've got to think of all the monarchy. I mean, Norway, we've got their monarch isn't coming. He's a bit too old, King Harold V. But we do have Crown Prince Haakon and Crown Princess Mette-Marit coming. From Sweden, their monarch is coming, King Carl Gustaf, and their Crown Princess, his heir, Crown Princess Victoria, she's coming. So we've got a father and daughter little ensemble there. From Denmark, is the Queen of Denmark coming? I don't think she is. She's just had back surgery. She's similar to the King of
Yeah,
Norway. No. So they're sending Crown
she's
Prince
sending.
Frederick,
Yeah,
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 and
yeah,
Crown
yeah.
Princess
You
Mary.
you carry on. Yeah. Yes,
So
exciting.
yeah, Crown Princess Mary definitely especially for fashion because she always, I think, quite similar to the Princess of Wales in some ways. In terms of everyday wear, I think so. Maybe not evening wear. We'll have to see about that. Um, the Netherlands is actually really interesting. So we've got their king and queen, Willem Alexander and Queen Maxima. They're coming, but also we have their former queen, now Princess Beatrix. She is coming, and also Crown Princess, well, not Crown Princess, but the Princess of Orange, Princess Amalia, who is their Crown Princess. So we not only have a former monarch and a future monarch, and the current monarch of the Netherlands coming. So we've got a
The whole
massive
lot.
thing there.
Tasty.
So yeah. So I think Princess Beatrix and Princess Amalia, so past and future, are going to be at the reception, and then King Willem Alexander and Queen Maxima, so the present, they're going to be at the actual coronation itself. So we're going to see
Okay.
a different selection of Dutch all over the place. So that'll be really exciting to see. Spain, King Felipe VI and Queen Letizia, which I'm sure Queen Letizia will be another fashion watch definitely because she never goes wrong. So we've
Okay,
got
she looks
those to look forward
great.
to as well. And then we've got the Grand Duke and Duchess of Luxembourg. We've got the Prince and Princess of Monaco, and we've got King and Queen of Malaysia, the Crown Prince and Princess of Japan. We've got lots. There are so many.
Are the Bhutan royalty coming? Do you know?
And I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything. Somebody's asked about Jordan. Yes, Jordan. Um,
Oh,
I think, yeah, Queen
Belgium.
Rania and King Abdullah are coming. Yeah, Belgium. I
Belgium.
forgot, completely forgot Belgium. I was trying to picture Europe in my head and go around, so I didn't forget, and I skipped over Belgium. Yes, King Philippe and Queen Matilda of the Belgians are coming, along with their heir, Princess Elizabeth. I think Princess Elizabeth is going to be at the reception, but not at the actual coronation itself, similar to the Netherlands.
I mean, that's quite the list. And I will be doing a deep dive into a lot of that fashion. So keep an eye on, well, I'm sure you'll be doing a deep dive into all the goings on as well. So keep an eye on our grids for that. But that is super, super exciting. Lots to feast our eyes on, and definitely some fashionistas to give Princess Catherine, Kate Middleton, a little bit of a run for her money, I think. Yeah, I mean, Kate's going to look amazing, I have no doubt, but we'll have some other fabulous outfits to look at too.
Yeah, definitely, especially with Letizia and Mary.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, okay, definitely some TikTok videos in the making there. Um, right. So what are you looking forward to most of the weekend? Do you have anything that's getting you very excited about all the formalities that are going on?
I mean, well, the main thing is the party. Like you say, it's an excuse to have a party. So that's going to be the best thing after the ceremony. But I think the procession is definitely going to be brilliant. The coronation procession, watching them go down the mall in the Golden State Coach with Princess Anne leading the 6,000 troops and all of them marching down the mall. I think that's going to be a brilliant picture. And then also, obviously, the main part of the ceremony, that actual crowning, that moment when the crown is put on their heads, that is going to be the moment that everyone's watching for. That's going to be amazing. I think that's what I'm most excited for.
And do we know for sure whether the anointing is going to be televised or not? Because obviously, last time with Queen Elizabeth, that was behind a screen because it's considered to be the most holy and sacred part of the entire ceremony.
That isn't.
Do you know about that?
Yeah, it's not going to
Pardon?
be shown. The same as Queen Elizabeth's, it's going to be hidden from TV. So that part isn't going to be broadcast. I don't know how they're going to do that. Whether they just sort of cut to the studio for commentary, or whether they just do a sort of blank screen. I don't know. But
I
either
think
way,
we'll
they're
have
not
a music.
showing.
Yeah, I imagine we'll have a musical interlude, won't we, at that
Yeah,
moment? Because I know that King Charles has taken a very active interest in all the music for the coronation and chosen everything personally and lots of favourite and varied pieces of music and composers. So that will be interesting to have a little bit of a look at. But I had a question about who will be wearing robes and who will wear only formal clothing. Well, we don't know for sure. We'll just say that first, Dylan, because everything, if you'll pardon the pun, is very cloak and dagger. Um, but we have seen one of the coronation invitations to the guests as the foreign nobility, etc., and that specifies day dress or national dress, lounge suits or morning suits, I think, as well.
yeah,
Um, doesn't state robes there. However, I've since been researching, and I think the peers, so the members of parliament that are going, can wear their parliament robes,
yeah,
which aren't. They're basically red wool, crimson wool,
yeah,
with some blue and white on as well. But they're not these ermine trimmed, purple, very extravagant ones.
yeah.
I'm sure the king will. I'm sure the queen will. I'd be surprised if they didn't. I don't think they'll be made new. I think there'll be some ones that have been worn before that will be reworn because, again, that would be very extravagant. I think it's one thing having a new suit or dress for the occasion, but I think making the robes now would probably not be a wise idea. And there's several sets of robes, of course. There's the Parliament robe that is worn at the end, that's then worn, that's the state robe that is then worn at the opening of every Parliament afterwards. So actually, that is made specifically for Charles. Sorry. But I think the other one, and I've forgotten the name of it, so please excuse me. I'm up to here in coronation paraphernalia and bits and pieces and orbs and sceptres and rings and crowns and everything else and
There's
dates.
so
I'm
much
terrible
going on,
remembering
so
names.
much to remember and keep an eye on, and then I feel like when it's all over next week, it's just going to be like, what now?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I know what will we do. Everything for me is BC before coronation and PC post coronation work wise. So it's just royal, royal, royal. I'm just checking for any more uh questions my end. Have you got
Yeah.
any?
If anybody has any questions, the crown that's being used again in the coronation is Queen Mary's crown, which Queen Mary actually had made with the purpose of future consorts using it instead of a new crown having to be made every time. So Queen Mary was sort of forward in her recycling thinking, and
Yes.
she had that purposely made for future consorts to wear. And
Yeah.
obviously, Camilla is the only one, well, other than the Queen Mother, but she didn't wear it, which was kind of weird that she didn't wear the one that Queen Mary had made for future consorts. Maybe because Queen Mary was still alive. But when that was made, I think when was that? Would have been made 1911. That's when their
Yeah,
coronation was.
I've just demonstrated how terrible I am on dates, so don't ask me the dates. You can
I
ask me
think
colours, designers, shapes, not dates.
yeah. So I think it was 1911. So she had that crown made then for future consorts. So yeah,
That's really useful. I was going to say, the whole re-wearing thing, that's quite interesting with the Queen's coronation gown because you would think that something like that would only be worn once because it was for such a very specific occasion. And it was a fantastic piece of, well, engineering, I'm going to say, fashion couture, and is widely regarded as one of the finest examples of 20th century design sort of ever made. But she was also quite pioneering because she actually went on to re-wear that gown 6 times, which I think is really cool. And kind of again paving the way for these more modern attitudes from of the monarchy for who, like Camilla, Princess Anne and Kate, who do now rewear as quite a regular thing. So Queen Elizabeth wore it to the state opening of Parliament in Canada, Sri Lanka, Australia, and New Zealand, which also gave it another outing or a few, and also enabled people who couldn't get to the coronation or line the streets of London in person another glimpse of it. So I think that's rather lovely.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and I was going to refer. I was talking earlier. I forgot to come back to it about the emblems of the United Kingdom that are emblazoned on the Queen Elizabeth's coronation gown. And actually, this nearly caused an enormous mistake and almost scuppered the whole project because Sir Norman Hartnell, the very flamboyant and celebrated designer of the time, who was doing this, he did Queen Elizabeth's wedding dress, he came on to do her coronation gown, thought that the national emblem for Wales was a daffodil. So he was in love with this beautiful daffodil that would adorn this beautiful dress and obviously floral, very, very aesthetically pleasing. And then he was told in no uncertain terms by the Earl of the Garter that actually he'd got it completely wrong and he had to put a leek on the dress. And he was not happy about that whatsoever because, he was an artiste and leeks are not beautiful. They are a vegetable covered in mud, etc., etc. And there's a whole story in his diary of how, his day is over and he questions himself, can he still go through with this project? How can he make a leaf look lovely? And he goes home and apparently the sun is setting and he goes out to his kitchen garden and he pulls up a leek and then he decides that actually after all that it is quite a beautiful vegetable and he could make it look aesthetically pleasing. So all was not lost, but he certainly had quite a major wobble at that time. And then the other thing he did for Queen Elizabeth, which was really lovely, which she didn't know about at all, was to sew an extra little good luck charm onto the gown just for her. So he already had shamrock on there, which was for Ireland, which is a 3-leaved clover. And certainly in the UK, a four-leafed clover is, or a four-leaf shamrock, I would imagine, is a symbol for good luck. So he secretly, without her knowing, sewed this beautiful little good luck charm of four-leaf clover exactly where her left hand would rest throughout the ceremony, which was her less active hand, if you like, throughout that. And she didn't ever know until afterwards, which I think is a really lovely tale.
It's brilliant.
Hmm. Yeah, it's all those little things, isn't it? You
Yeah,
get little bits of
little
history
detail.
that kind of just bring it all to life.
Yeah.
Um, so you and I, we're going to get together again after the coronation for an analysis, aren't we?
Yes, we'll have a look at everything we thought. Somebody just commented when you were talking about the leak. Are we talking about the coronation quiche?
Oh, no,
No,
hasn't got leeks in it. It's
I
got
don't
broad
think so,
beans and
no.
tarragon.
Yeah,
Tarragon beans. I did do the recipe. See, actually, I think it sounds delicious, but lots of people are saying, ugh. But I'd try it.
I'd try it. I don't think I'd try and make it. I would try it. I'm not sure I would like it though.
You could buy the pastry case and then just make the top and pop it
Yeah.
in. But maybe you don't have the, I don't know what kind of student digs you live in York, or whether you've got a house or what. Maybe you don't have the kitchen quite for it. I don't know.
I think it'd be something that I'd have to make at home. I think it'd be a lot easier.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So yeah, we're going to meet again after the coronation. So we'll get
Yeah.
that date in and advertise it on our pages. And I know you've got for my followers that are watching. If you don't know Charlie, well, you do now. And he's got lots of fantastic royal content for you to go and gorge yourself on. There's nothing he doesn't know. So if you haven't already, please go and give him a follow and like all his videos and send us a comment and all of that stuff that helps us.
Yeah,
And
and everybody here go and do the same. If you love royal fashion, which I mean, who doesn't? There's always something exciting to look at. And we'll be back here again after all is said and done for a bit of a reaction and unpacking everything that went on.
yeah, do you know what? I really enjoyed this. I think we should have like a every few weeks get together and just have a chin wag over a cup of tea and discuss
Yeah,
what's been happening in the royal family.
definitely, because there's always stuff going on, always, and it's nice to just sit and unpack everything and filter it through and lay everything out to see everything that's been happening. So definitely,
Yeah, agreed. And sometimes there's something that you don't fully understand or didn't quite know why that happened, and we can probably work it out between you and I and our lovely followers. We can probably do that together.
yeah, brilliant.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you so much.
Great,
And we're
yeah,
going to
thank
save
you.
this, aren't we? And download it and put it on our grids.
Yes, I
This
think we can do that.
some
I'm fairly certain. So we will figure that out. And then if anybody's
Yeah.
missed it or if anybody's missed a certain point that are here now, then don't worry. We'll clip out the good parts that we were really getting into, and then we can repost everywhere.
Yeah, perfect. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Charlie. Have a
you
great
too. Thank
evening.
you. You too.
See you
Bye.
soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.